What's going on, traders? Welcome back to another video. Today, we just survived. We made it out alive. The streak is intact. I know many of you were concerned about that, or maybe just waiting for the day I have a red day so you can finally applaud and say, yes, I knew it. He sucks. But anyways, today was a battle. It was a good lesson day of where my stop loss should be, where my attention should be, because I was very busy today with outside work other than trading. And that's normally when I just don't perform best, because my attention is split. And you'll see that today in these trades. So without further ado, let's get into it here. Look at the trades element. That's an equity curve if I've seen one. Battling back, I actually did once earlier on in the session. I mean, I probably could have called it quits there, saying, oof, all right, we were down 400, but we made it back. But I wanted some money. I don't want to walk away with nothing. I want to walk away with some green. Took a bigger hit. But if the market thought it was giving me a red day, that's hilarious. Not today. Not while the streak's going on. So we finally made that back, but it was a roller coaster to say the least. So let's get into the markups here. I have it here on Trading View. This is the fourth trade, the final trade that made back all my money. We'll go pretty much backwards because this is the later afternoon trade. That I really like the way we're holding this yesterday's high level. Obviously, we had that giant rip at the New York Open straight up. So I don't normally like to take trades like this when there's so much, I like to just say, empty space. Look at all this gray space between where we popped up on that final break of the initial balance here and where the New York VWAP is. There's just a lot of gray space that, to me, I just want to see some of it filled because there's a lot of emptiness that feels like it wants to be filled just a little bit. Get me a little bit closer to New York so we don't look so overextended and exhausted up here. But I couldn't ignore how strongly we were respecting this yesterday's high level, which isn't always a key level I look at. But I couldn't ignore it today. We're clearly holding it quite a bit. So this is the final trade that it holds it one time, two. I mean, you could even say back here, maybe 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. We aren't getting below this. Sellers are failing every time they get below here, but also look at all these high day VWAP breaks. You have just as many to the upside, and buyers are showing that they're failing as well. So when it comes to that, the tug of war, I'm still going to lean long bias because we're very bullish today, and I don't really see the reason that we would just sell off and tank here. So this was the final trade that I get back in as we get this bigger dip down, probably clearing out all these obvious stop losses here, right? You got to think about that sometimes as well. That it was maybe too obvious that this shelf was being held, and a lot of people that were long somewhere along here probably had a tight stop at this level. So it pins them all out and then goes higher without them. But I wasn't going to let it leave without me. So I get back in and I get out for a small new high a day. Left a couple hundred on the table, but once we go through this whole day, I was just glad to walk away, break even, not get greedy and say, give me my P&L now. I would say this is my 4th trade. I don't trade 4 times a lot, so get me out of here, please. It's 1:30. I want to be done. But the first trade was, like I was saying with many of them, I think it was this candle here, yeah. So it was this one, because I didn't take the first one, I just didn't see it. But as it holds this higher lows into these continuous breaks of a high day VWAP, I want to be in this before this does pop, right? Because we're clearly stalling at this high, yesterday's high. The pullback's been probably like an hour or so now, 55 minutes. So it's not a deep pullback in points, but it's a pretty good pullback in distance of time of an hour. So buyers really took a break for like an hour. Maybe they're ready to step back in. And just like all those amateurs I was just saying, the obvious stop losses got hit. So I got smoked and I had to get back in. So that was the afternoon plays. I think the long was definitely the right direction. Clearly it went higher. And the stop loss on even this first trade, it would have just been luck to randomly have it survive down here, I think, because there's no other structure to work with. That's why I also don't like these overextended ones, because show me where a stop loss would make sense anywhere in this range. It's all random. So, unfortunately, I got topped out. So that was the afternoon plays, finally getting me back to break even. Now let's take a look at the first trade. That's the Dow. We don't trade the Dow. Please give me the ES. Thank you. And there's that trade over there. But here's the first one. So this one probably looks more familiar to what you guys see me take, more so in the New York session early on. We have that edge fill stat of we want to break the initial balance. So I'll give you first off, this is the first trade. It was right here as we're, again, holding this level of this yesterday's New York. But I really like the way sellers have just been failing since that new pop lower. And we're just making these tiny little higher lows. And that stat of we know we're going to break out of the initial balance. Like 0% of the time it doesn't. So let me go get that. And then once it does, there's a 70% chance or so that we only single break. So for this one, it was betting on that we're going to break one. And that buyers are going to step in now. Because the way the 50-minute was looking, I mean, over here, we were finally getting the breaks above here. So we're finally getting above that yesterday's New York, throwing all these pins to the downside. Sellers just getting weaker and weaker throughout that entire open. So I really like the longs. Now, again, the stop loss is just too tight. I put it right at this pin of the previous structure at least. I guess that's a good thing. But it's right at the open range low and right on the New York VWAP. So probably should have went with the structure outside all of these levels down here. And it's still only 10 points. 10 points is not a lot. So that's a mistake on my part of why are you being greedy? Why are you only trying to risk 6 points and trying to go get 6, right? Now, the funny thing is, I guess it's not really funny because I lost, but it did give me that initial balance break like I wanted and like I thought we would get, but not enough for my 1R, even with the tighter stop. So I hold through and I get stopped. Damn, my thesis played out, but I lost. That's a tricky one. But then I had to buy it back at a lower price, which I like this one even better because being that that previous trade just took out the initial balance high, like I said, we have that stat that we probably only single break now. So this move down isn't really scaring me because we're still in this New York that we don't probably want to just move lower here because that would be a double break of the initial balance and that probably doesn't want to happen. So I'm still sticking with the longs. And like I said on that previous trade, we finally got, I'd say, our first good bullish candle here. It's not even amazing, but we'll take it. A bullish close on the 15-minute above that yesterday's New York, and then we get the follow through, and then we pop higher. So I had to buy it back. This time it's the better price and a better stop loss because if this were to fail again, I know I wouldn't want to be long down here below all these VWAPs and levels again. So I really like the stop loss on this one. This one makes sense, but I do not catch this entire rip. No way. But nice little 4.5R from the bottom here. But again, another lesson on this that probably isn't spoken about a lot. I got out at the high of day because I'm trying to recover my loss. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, maybe partially it's the stupid ass streak that I have that I'm trying to keep it, that I don't want to have a red day. But I recover my loss here, so that's definitely a good thing. But I'm wondering myself if this was like the only trade I took, or let's just even pretend I was in the first one still with the wider stop and I survived this. If I survive this, am I maybe adding in here? Saying, oh, wow, I really like the way we just held New York again. Let me add in. And then maybe I even hold it for longer and I can make good money on it. But because of the way that first outcome played out, now I'm treating the second trade differently of just recovery mode. Just give me the win. Rather than saying, let me try to make some money here. Right? So those are really what I speak about a lot of why I wait so much for my specific setup. Because I don't want to have a stupid loss that I now have to try to recover and manage that second trade differently. I want to be fresh when my best setup presents. So if I was only in this one, I probably would have tried to trail my stop and catch a little bit, not all of it, but I definitely could have made money rather than trying to have the mindset of, let me just go recover it, right? So I think those little nuances aren't spoken about a lot because, I mean, I obviously ripped this giant rip that there was no sign to get out here. If anything, this is the second breakout of initial balance, which probably does work more often than the first. So I should believe that we do want to go higher. I did think that, but I can't say you were down 400. You can now be break even. Are you going to not close this trade? I'm going to have to close it, unfortunately. So that's how that played out. But I think if you look over here, quite the equity curve, like I said, but we could look at edge fill real quick. The initial bounce. So 0% of the time we no break. That's why I was shooting for that first long. But then once that first long came in, now there's a 70% chance we don't go make a new low a day practically, because then that would double break that initial balance, which probably doesn't want to happen. So that's why I was so comfortable taking this long, even though it is a beautiful long off the New York view up. The only reason it may not look great is because the yesterday's New York view up in your way and you're in the range. Definitely not a beautiful, beautiful structure, but we've seen this plenty of times. And I had another lesson on Twitter. We won't go find that now, but if I just clean this up, I'll just draw it again. If you could just survive this, I'd say, I think actually the better lesson was on NQ. Because NQ was gross. So NQ here. Let's measure it out. Or even draw it out. NQ, probably, you could say arguably here. So 11:30. 2 hours. Let's make that nice and red because that's gross. Even though it could be way worse. Because you do kind of have some higher lows in here. But just bear with me now. We'll move it to an hour. It's gross until there. But then, you didn't burn yourself out because you were like, I don't like this trend at all. I'm not doing nothing. Well, then you're able to capitalize once the trend steps in. But you had to survive this first hour and a half. Right? Did you long it up there and say, oh, that didn't work. We're going to finally crack lower. And then you try to sell it again off the retest. And then you buy it too high. Right? Just things like that. Burning yourself and using all your risk in no trend while it's chopping. Then once the trend comes in, you're no longer able to capitalize on it because you're out of risk. You're burnt out for the day. You hit max daily loss. So just things like that of saying, have some faith. It's only 10 o'clock. It's only 11 o'clock. I know it's ugly now. Check back in later. We're going to have a beautiful trend probably at some point today. And if we don't, we don't. But there's plenty of days in the week, of the month. So I see this lesson all the time. I agree. In the moment when you're watching this minute by minute, you're like, Jesus, this is so slow. Do something. And then when you ask it to do something, it happens pretty quick. And it runs right by you without you even getting in. Riding those even longs later on. Same idea over here as ES. Find the bounces, breaks of high day. So the trend came in. You just had to survive this first hour. And even another lesson, I'll give you a lot here. The first hour here, I say all the time, if when in doubt, just stay out. You don't have to know where this wants to go. We had a lot of people on our ASFX TV streams this morning liking the shorts from here, if it could finally crack lower. But some people were also longing it. No one was right or wrong on their opinions. I mean, some are maybe more favorable. But there's really no direction screaming at you like, oh yeah, that's probably going lower or that's probably going higher. And you don't have to guess or say what's going to happen or predict what's going to happen. If it's not high probability, just say, I don't know. Truthfully, I don't really know where this wants to go. I could see it going either way. So if it's a coin flip, have no shame in staying out until you're really confident, because then you show up here and you're saying, well, now instead of being like a coin flip, I know I want to buy it. And when you know the direction you want to take it with full confidence, then you could just start thinking about price. What price is going to pay me? I know the direction is probably right, so now I'm going to just try to get a good price in that direction of the trend. So just don't burn yourself out. Wait for it to become clear for you, and then you can hopefully capitalize on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful trend. Simple as that. So like I said, great to survive. And then after this week, I'm taking the payout on Friday. So thankfully, no hit to the account today. That could have been ugly. But next week, we'll be doing fully Tradeify accounts. I have 3 of them lined up. I'm doing the straight to sim funded, and I would recommend you do the same. I think it's just better to not have to go through time of the combine or the challenge stage, but to each their own. Everyone's on a different level. But if you do, you can get 30% off any of these plans, whether it's the growth or the straight to sim. If you use my name code Dyer, you can get 30% off all of these. And I would even, if you could handle it, the investment, which I think you should, I think the 150s are probably going to be the way to go. I go back and forth sometimes, but you're going to get $6,000 worth of drawdown. 3 times the amount of a 50K for only $200 more. That seems reasonable. But with my code, it's going to be even less. So use code Dyer on any of these accounts. Really appreciate it. I am doing 2 giveaways on it this week. And we'll do more in the future. But in the meantime, go scoop up your own. And then we'll be copy trading those next week. Looking to take quick payouts on those because I'm going to be sizing up a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited for that. And then the Edgeful, we went over that. Key stats, always tune into that. I talk about them on stream all the time, so you're really never going to be left in the dark of what these stats are. The initial balance it's no joke. I mean, it's 70%. And you can get even better odds. I think on a Friday, it's 80. So on Friday, once we break an initial balance, you think I'm going to be leaning one side? Probably. So that was my trading today. Glad to be survived and flat and scratch, whatever. The streak is intact. The month is still going well. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. Hope you guys found some value in this. If you did, leave a comment. I'll see you guys on stream tomorrow morning and the rest of the week. But other than that, trade safe. See you guys on the charts tomorrow morning.